Focus on the savvy side of 9 to 5 with the Focus Group.
Try, really try.
Listen, laugh, and learn with Tim and John.
I never try anything. I just do it.
I was thinking of her with her chest. Hey, welcome back to the Focus Group. Tim Bennett here, as always, with my good friend and co-host, John Nash. Be sure to follow along with us every week at focusgroupradio.com to learn all about us. If you're watching us live today, thank you. And we're here every Wednesday at 1 p.m. East through Facebook Live and through YouTube, our stream on YouTube. As John promised, we have joining us via the magic of Skype, I guess.
Skip A.
We've got Mark Vogler joining us, and you might remember Mark's been on the show before. He was the one of the principals and co-founders of Out in the Vineyard, which is, we believe, one of the best LGBT events. It's a 3-day gay wine weekend event out in Sonoma. They also have a cruise they're doing this year, a European cruise. But interestingly, Mark, at the end of the month or in a couple of days, is heading off to Antarctica to work with the National Science Foundation. And we wanted to talk to Mark a little bit about what all that entails and how he ended up doing that, and then learn more about Out in the Vineyard and what's going on there. So welcome to the show, Mark.
Hi, guys. How are you?
There you are.
Well, you're nice and warm, but you're not going to be pretty soon.
I've got gear for that.
Wow. So, hey, so tell us a little bit about, we'll talk about Out in the Vineyard and some of that stuff, but when are you leaving, and can you fill us in a little bit about what you'll be doing in Antarctica?
I can. Actually, I leave a week from Monday, so it's sort of a quick turnaround. I was just in Europe and literally flying back, and I've been working on this for about 5 years.
Wow.
To try and get a position to work in Antarctica during their summer season. You know, Out in the Vineyard is really a summer season for us, which is their winter. So it's a perfect fit, actually, for me and my passion with, I sort of fell for the ice in 2011 and have been trying to get back there. And so I got the call, and it's a quick turnaround. I have to get everything ready and leave on Monday and fly to New Zealand. And like the Anthony Bourdain show, when Anthony Bourdain did that, I literally will get the gear assigned to me, get on the C-130 airplane, and fly in a jump seat over to McMurdo, the U.S. research base off the Roth Sea.
So, Mark, I think this is an amazing trip you're going to be doing, and it's 2 solid months of being in Antarctica, and that doesn't count for the days going back and forth, because that's going to be at least a 24-hour trip, I imagine, getting there. And right. while you're at the U.S. research base, are you going to be given a specific tasks to do?
I am, actually. This is starting out, it's actually in support of the scientist from a lodging perspective. And so from a hospitality perspective, and that's why it ended up being a fit to try and get a position. So, you know, Out in the Vineyard is a hospitality-driven company. Here, we bring people to Sonoma, we do wine events, we work with hotels, and we make sure they have a great experience here. So this is actually working with a vendor for the National Science Foundation on the lodging side. So I will be helping to support the scientists. And, you know, honestly, after I was there the first time, I don't care if I'm scrubbing toilets. Antarctica is a really amazing place. And interestingly enough, when I was talking to some of the people, they do have PhDs actually doing this kind of work. I mean, it's sort of like pledging a fraternity on some level, in that they need to see if psychologically you can make it through the weather and the isolation down there for an extended period of time, and then they open up a whole bunch of other positions for you. So really, your first time out is really starting at the bottom, and even PhD candidates and PhD scientists sort of start here, and so I'm very excited to have this opportunity. So
I'm pretty naive about Antarctica, as I think a lot of people are. So we have the United States has is it a base?
It's a research base. We actually have several of them. There's 3 of them, I believe. There's one on the peninsula closest to Argentina called Palmer Station. And then of course we work with some other countries for the Scott Amundsen base, which is at the South Pole. But the premier research base is really at the Roth Sea, which last year became a very large reserve, or year before under Obama. It's the largest marine reserve in the world now. And the largest research base started there in the 50s. And it's world class. Everybody from all over the world, scientists come to work at McMurdo in the summertime. There's about 1,000 people. Their summer, our winter. And during winter to overwinter, there's about 125 people. And so that's not on the table at the moment, but I would certainly love to have that classic Antarctic experience of overwintering in these severe conditions, but that's not on the table at the moment.
So is it a U.S. territory, or because I know isn't Canada there, and Norway's there, and
all
Russia's
nations
there? I
have
mean,
some
isn't there some?
There are numerous countries that work there. There are sort of regions that people or countries have carved out, but by the Antarctic Treaty, it is an open territory for everyone with no military or sort of exploitative mineral research allowed, right? So there's no drilling, there's no nuclear power. When McMurdo first started, there was a small nuclear power station there, and that quickly got removed. And so there is no nuclear power in Antarctica. The countries are being really great about trying to use this place as a research place for all. And there's some pretty tough restrictions. And even tour operators have a voluntary treaty that they work on called IATA, which is the International Antarctica Tour Operator Organization Treaty, that limits the kinds of landings they can do, the amount of people they can take there, how far or close they can get with the wildlife species, penguins and whales and leopard seals and stuff like that.
Now, Mark, Antarctica is actually a continent. Unlike the North Pole, there is actually a land mass under all the ice and snow, correct?
That's correct. It is the opposite, literally the polar opposite of the Arctic. Whereas the Arctic is a large ocean surrounded by land, Antarctica is literally a large landmass surrounded by its own ocean. And most people don't know that. There is an ocean, it's called the Southern Ocean, and it literally circles the continent south of the Pacific, Atlantic, and Indian Oceans. And that's why you have these giant waves and storms around the Horn, around Cape Horn in South America, because you have three oceans converging there and the two land masses come close. It's like putting water through a hose. It speeds up right there, and you get these crazy waves over the Drake Passage.
So a lot of the research that I read about in Antarctica, I mean, they do amazing things. They bring up ice cores. They'll bore down, and they bring up, and they can look at ice samples, carbon date them. They can go back thousands of years and make very, very careful measurements of what our atmosphere was like hundreds and thousands of years ago. Bacteria that might have gotten caught or brought over to Antarctica with rain clouds, et cetera. What would your hope be? So this first round, I think you're excited. It's going to be an amazing experience. I bet those 8 weeks are going to go by like in a blink of an eye. But a return visit for you, what would you hope to be doing there?
I would hope to be out actually doing ice cores, pulling ice cores and working in the field. There's a blogger, I forgot his name now, that I sort of followed and helped me with understanding this process, who did the same thing, started in hospitality, and then the next season, he was out in the field, out toward the South Pole, pulling ice core samples with the scientists. And that's what I would love to be doing. There's also a place about 40 miles inland from McMurdo called the Dry Valleys. And there is no ice there. It is literally the driest spots on Earth. It's gravel. There's nothing there but basically gravel and mummified seals that have worked their way up there. And there's a lot of expeditions out there. People are looking for microbes and meteor fragments. It would be really incredible to go spend some time out there. I went last year and ended up being there for just a few hours, and it's a stunning place. But weather moved in. It forced the helicopters to get out of there really fast. So I had about an hour there, and it's not enough for sure.
You're obviously, if you're watching, we're talking to Mark Vogler from Out in the Vineyard, but we're talking about his impending trip to Antarctica. From a physical requirement, what was the? You don't just say, "Oh, I want to go."
I want to go.
So what was?
I was getting a little nervous. I'm not getting any younger. But
so what was the process for you to get accepted to this program?
It is a pretty rigorous program. It's not so much like boot camp. I mean, I'm not being a Navy SEAL out in the beaches somewhere pulling telephone poles, unfortunately, with a bunch of really hot, military guys. But there are physical requirements. There's rigorous medical and even some psychological and dental examinations that you have to go through. You have to do a stress test. You have to do they check your heart and your lungs. And literally I had to have a sonogram for my gallbladder. They're doing really detailed analysis. Some people actually have to have dental work in that they don't let people go with their wisdom teeth. So because if you have something impacted and something happens, you can't get out. You can't
Yeah,
get
yeah.
out.
Mark, with the
And
minute
so
you said some of this, I thought to myself, you don't want to be in Antarctica with a major medical problem. You just don't.
you don't. You
There's no
can't. In
open
the
heart
summer,
surgery.
there's no surgery. I mean, there's a small hospital there and doctors, and in the summer you can get out. They have flights every week or so, but it's really weather dependent. And I've had a lot of questions over the years about the cold in Antarctica, and it's not so much that it's cold. It is, but it's really about how fast the weather changes. When I was there last year, and this was the dumbest thing I could have done. You know, I've been there several times before, and I started to get a little bit cocky. And I was at McMurdo. I'm going to do a little hike up a volcano vent because there's two volcanoes right there. That one is still active, Erebus and Terror, and they were named after the Franklin expedition.
Yep.
And those are the namesakes. And it's really amazing to stand there and see those two mountains, those two volcanoes, named after these mythical, although recently found ships in the Canadian Arctic that were sunk.
Hey, the HMS Terror, there was a book called The Terror, and it was about the mythical what happened when they got trapped in the ice. What a horrible way to go. Anyway, back to your foolhardy climb up a volcano.
Right, foolhardy climb. So you go up this vent, and it actually got into the high 40s, maybe broke 50. It will do that there. And so I stripped everything because I'm sweating, and I dropped my gear, took the gloves off, and I'm in a T-shirt and jeans. And literally, by the time I got to the top, within 15, 20 minutes, the temperature went from 50 to minus 15. Oh! And there's called katabatic winds, which swoop off the continent like a giant air conditioner. And literally within a few minutes, I started getting hypothermic. My hands went numb. And I thought, I have got to get off this mountain right now. Wow. And that was foolish, and I should know better. And so I will not make that mistake this time down there. But, you know, I don't know how much time we have. I really wanted to talk about one of the things that you mentioned was about the LGBT connection, or how that will work. Yeah. What's going on there. Interestingly enough, I'd been, again, working on trying to get a position there for about 5 years after my first trip in 2011. And I did tons of training, tons of seamanship. I went to the Maritime Academy here and learned all about maritime safety and maritime firefighting, driving Zodiacs, all of that stuff, which most Antarctic companies, expedition companies, require for you to be able to work there. And but this has been harder to get a gig than when I worked in Hollywood right out of college. I mean, I think it's harder to get a position. Yeah, I'm not kidding. I'm not exaggerating. Really, it's been really, really hard because there's so few of the positions and it's so sought after. So what happened here? Interestingly, I really have to thank the Velvet Mafia for this, because I mean, it was just coincidental. A combination of social media and LGBT networking got me this opportunity. I've been applying for years to this program, 30, 40, 50 different jobs over the course of the years, and never gotten a response back. And when I was going last year, somebody in New Zealand saw a hashtag and reached out to a friend of theirs in San Francisco and said, do you know this guy, this gay man who's going to Antarctica? And he said no. So, but when I got to Argentina, I did a circumnavigation and got to Argentina, this guy pops up and said, hey, I hear you live near San Francisco and we're just at McMurdo. I said, yeah, and we talked, we sort of struck up a friendship. His name is Alejandro Rubio, and he worked there several years ago. And I talked about my concern a little bit. I'd love to, but, you know, are they going to take a gay man there? What, you know, how would that work? How closeted do you have to be? He said, interestingly enough, I have a friend, Daniel Vedra, who's there right now helping facilitate the power plant at McMurdo. Why don't you meet him? And he connected me, and we became friends on Facebook. And next thing I know, I get an email from Human Resources that says, we hear you'd be a great candidate to come work with us.
Wow.
Wow, Mark,
and that's literally how that worked.
You had literally just nailed the power of networking.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And I liked your and the Velvet Mafia too.
And the Velvet Mafia.
Velvet Mafia.
Haven't you heard that term before?
Oh yeah. I love the term, and it's a softer hit. When there's a hit that has to be made, it's soft. It's the Velvet Mafia. But right? I think that's wonderful, and I know that when we were last at Out in the Vineyard, I believe that you were wrapping up or just starting some of your training. It might have actually been the Zodiac training and some of your.
It probably was. I think I was just wrapping up that.
So because we were out in 2015.
Yeah, 2015.
Thank you, because
2015, yeah.
so
That's
you were
about
just
right.
doing that, and I remember like, wow, this is amazing that you're doing it. So you're excited about this.
I am.
Just
And as a photographer, getting out there and photographing, I mean, Antarctica is amazing. I call it Neverland because you have basically magic hour for 6-8 hours at a time.
wow.
It's really stunning.
Are you going to do a blog aside from, because I know you're probably at your max of Facebook friends, but I enjoy reading on a lot of your travels. You're an excellent writer. The
Thank you.
pictures are great. And are you going to do a separate blog for people to follow your journey, or do you not have time for that?
Well, I'm not sure how much time I will have down there because it is requirement of 6-day weeks, 10-hour days.
Wow.
Work week. So I really have one day off a week, much like being on location on film, in film work. But the biggest challenge for me is going to be there's incredibly limited internet access.
I was wondering about
So,
that.
yeah, what there is the scientists get the bandwidth. So I think I'm going to end up doing internet detox.
Excuse me, I've got a blog to do.
Right, exactly.
I know you need to get this to DC, but
global warming, but I got to get I got followers here.
but you know who I am?
Right, exactly. My mother's going to kill me if she doesn't hear from me. But so I will be writing, actually, interestingly enough. I'm going to keep a journal. I am going to write and pretend I am just online anyway and continue to document as I do in my travels. I always want people to, I think that sometimes we travel writers or bloggers we take ourselves a little too seriously, right? It's got to be this big article, this big serious thing. And I really like people to live it with me. So I try to post as things are happening, right? Where I'm going, what I'm doing, the experiences I'm having, places I'm seeing and staying. And that's good and bad. I think it makes for a great live feed, but when I go back and look at my pictures, there's a ton of stuff that I have that wasn't really covered. And so this will be an interesting exercise, I think, in how do we put both of those together, right? How do I put together something that feels live, but that also might have some things that are documented a little more detailed.
So Tim just looked at me and he said, we have to have him back.
After
So
8 weeks, you'll have to come
all
back.
right, you're going to definitely come and debrief us, and we will want pictures too.
Yes.
Yeah, I think it will be the book. I think 8 weeks on the ice.
You have to have a title to start. So before we let you go,
Yeah.
let's do a quick rundown on Out in the Vineyard, which you're going to be managing and helping to put together. It's your baby. July 20th to the 22nd, 2018.
It is. It is.
Are you expecting any challenges this year because of the wildfires in California?
The only challenge I think is getting people to understand that Sonoma is in really great shape.
Ah, okay.
Santa Rosa certainly had some pretty massive destruction, and it was really hard to be here in Sonoma Valley. We were kind of cut off. We had fires on both ends of the valley, so we couldn't really get out, and media was limiting. And I just flew back from Greenland on another gig and flew literally into the fires, and it was really hard. And a lot of people have some really bad PTSD. I mean, I have close friends who lost everything.
Wow.
Thankfully, I'm
Wow.
okay. But there was a lot of rumor and a lot of fake news around Sonoma Valley wineries are completely gone. Everything's burned to the ground, and that's not the case. The hills certainly were burned. We lost a couple wineries at the top of the mountains, but Sonoma Valley's intact. Chateau St. Jean, the amazing, gracious host of our tea dance and the major fundraiser for Gay Wine Weekend, got a little scorched. There's a few burn marks, but the place is standing. It's beautiful, and they are hosting.
I'm laughing, Mark, because back here in East Coast, they said Chateau St. Jean. We were there, gone. I went to the local store and bought every bottle of Chardonnay.
Well, thank you, though. And we did get that. And part of the reason I grabbed when I got here, I didn't know what to do. I needed to help. I needed to get the word out because people were asking me from all over the country, what's happening with St. Jean? What's happening in Sonoma Valley? People were genuinely concerned. And so I pulled out my little Man About World press pass. I do work for Ed Salvato and Man About World as a contributor. And to my surprise, it got me behind the fire lines. And I was able to drive around, and I did videos, daily videos, posting the status, and literally went to St. Jean, saw it there, posted a picture, and some woman in the East Coast tried to contradict me and said, that's an old picture. Here's some pictures that I got off the Twitter.
Lady, I'm on the lawn.
Lady, I'm standing here, and I live here, and I used to work here. So, it was, but what I did tell people who want to help, we got a lot of people saying, like day 2 of the fires of 12 days. They burned for nearly 2 weeks. What can we do? How do we come out? How do we help? And it's sort of like we have enough volunteers already. Clothes are being sent. The best thing you can do is buy Sonoma Valley wines.
Yeah,
Literally that trickles down into revenue, which helps employ the people who are hourly wage workers who lost their jobs.
And it helps the vineyards to rebuild if there's been any damage.
And John and I have said for anybody, and I know in 2016 and 17, Gay Travel gave you guys the best event and the summer award. And
well deserved.
we said to John, there's circuit parties, there's gay ski weeks, there's all that stuff, but the event that we attended and we plan to attend again was by far one of the most fun weekends we had, and people from all over the country. You and Gary did a great job, and it was just so much fun to be out in Sonoma. It's such a great part of the country, but it was comfortable, it was relaxed, it wasn't, you didn't have to be a wine snob. I think sometimes people get scared of that. It was just a great weekend to be with a lot of fun people.
Now we hear that you guys are also adding a Europe wine cruise that's happening September 14 to 24. If you visit, I guess you could visit outinthevineyard.com, right?
You can. Actually, all of the events are up there. Those are our 2 big events. We have a couple other things Gary and I are working on that'll be a little quieter and put out there, but very special and intimate, maybe one-day events. But this, we decided it was time maybe. We've had so many people come to Sonoma and understand sort of New World wines. We were approached by a tour operator or agent, Adam Martindale, who works with Oceana in cruise planners, and said, we'd love to put an Old World wine cruise together for you. And so Gary and I talked about it, and we thought, what a better way than to introduce a lot of our customers who are New World wine people, mostly Canada and US, although we've had people from Australia, which is also New World, and Europe come to Gay Wine Weekend. We thought it'd be nice to turn the table around the other way a little bit, and let's go explore the roots of California wine country. Where do they literally come from? How are the differences in the wines? So Gary and I are going. The first 25 who book get to have dinner with us. We're going to do a winemaker dinner on the boat. On the ship, I should say. But it's I think it's going to be really interesting. So we are doing Portugal, Spain, France, and Italy. And I think it's going to be a really amazing 2 weeks.
Beyond the fact that it's just beautiful countries to visit, right? And the time of year you're doing it is so perfect. It's right after all the tourists leave.
Around your birthday.
Right after Labor Day, and it is around my birthday.
Do that for your birthday, John.
Maybe
you guys should come, and then you can broadcast from there. We could do a show.
I'm saying yes right now.
I looked at if you look at the map, we have a picture of the map here if you're watching online of the ports of call, but from Barcelona to Lisbon to Mallorca to Portofino and Florence and Rome. I mean, it's unbelievable, really.
Yeah.
And it's so good for you guys.
All right,
it's a great.
I just had a thought. You could be the most popular guy down in Antarctica if you fill that suitcase with those little half bottles of wine, right?
Well, it has been crossing my mind. How do I get wine there? Because unfortunately, I have a limited.
Yep.
They're really limiting the amount of weight I can take. So I get like 75 pounds. That's it, including camera gear.
Oh boy.
And so I'll probably just take a couple little Speedos and a rainbow flag and see where that gets me.
Hey, Mark, I want to thank you for joining us today, and I want to wish you a bon voyage to Antarctica. Bon voyage. The French in me is saying bon voyage. Have a very, very safe trip. Please plan on coming back when you return. We're going to continue to talk about Out in the Vineyard when you get back. I want to see some photos, and we're dying to hear about it. So safe journey. Thank you for joining us. Everybody, it's outinthevineyard.com if you want to learn more about the wine weekend in July in Sonoma or the European cruise in September. So, Mark, thanks again.
Thanks, Mark.
Thank you, John, Tim. It's great to see you guys.
Take care.
Happy New Year.
We are going to take a super quick break, and when we come back, we have a super quick shop talk called Buzzwords That Make You Sound Like an Idiot. I use most of them. So we're going to be back in a minute. Yeah.
Brought to you by Volkswagen. Visit VW.com to learn more.